All right, so you landed a big commercial gig, and the client is ready to drop a big old bag of money on your doorstep, and you are psyched, right? But then you look in the contract, and there it is, in perpetuity rights. Sounds fancy, sounds official. What the hell does it actually mean? Why should you, as a voice actor, care? You're going to get paid, right? Let's break this down. This is In Perpetuity Explained. And make sure you stick around because there's a scenario around In Perpetuity that you likely haven't thought of. I hadn't, and so maybe you haven't, and we're going to have a special guest to walk you through it. Now, let's start with what does in-perp or in perpetuity actually mean? It's a term that essentially means forever. In fact, it does mean forever. When a client asks you for rights in perpetuity, in-perp, it means that they're asking you for the rights to use your voice forever. That means, yes, even after you die. It also means they can use it in whatever way they see fit, right? In whatever platform, whether that platform has even been invented yet or not. In perpetuity means forever and everything that encompasses it. And the kicker is they don't have to pay you another thin dime. Great deal for the client, not so much for you, the voice talent. Why? Let's say you just voiced a hot new ad for a fast food chain, right? And they've paid you up front, you got a big bag of money, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. But now let's fast forward 3, 4, 5 years down the line. That ad is still running. It's running on radio, TV, and broadcast. It's all over the place, still raking in money for the client, and you're not raking in any more money than you originally got. And so you think to yourself, well, I'll just negotiate for more. Nope. You've sold your rights in perpetuity. Forever. There is no renegotiation period. So you're essentially locked out of any renegotiation for that ad, any future earnings for that ad, even though that might be hugely profitable for the client. Let's just take this a step further. Let's say that ad becomes iconic. For those of you of a certain age, you will remember back in I guess it was the 80s or 90s, Where's the Beef? Well, if you had done a Where's the Beef type ad, an iconic ad, one that kind of seeps itself into the cultural zeitgeist, as the intellectuals like to say, that ad's going to be all over the place. People are going to be quoting it. It might end up in movies. You're going to see the commercial all over the place. People will reference it in pop culture. And again, you're not going to make one more thin dime, even though you and the whole world knows that that's your voice. And now they associate you with that brand, your voice with that brand. You're not seeing any more ka-ching from that ad. And in fact, now the client is cutting that ad up and using it in ways that you never even dreamed of. And again, you're not getting paid. But my friends, your problems have yet to just begin. Let's just say theoretically that another fast food chain comes along and they offer you an even bigger bag of money. Problemo solved, right? Not so much, because you sold your rights in perpetuity to the first fast food chain. You, my friend, are screwed blue. You can't even audition. Why? It's called soft exclusivity, and we'll get to that in a minute. And if that wasn't enough, let's paint another picture here. Let's say you do a digital ad for a company, and you've sold your rights in perpetuity, and a decade later, that company has grown from a little startup to a huge multinational corporation, and they decide that they're going to expand into other markets. They're going to go global. International. Now that they've gone global and they're expanding into international markets, they're expanding into different languages, but you're so iconic, they keep you on the English language version and they're expanding into other English-speaking countries. And again, you're not getting another thin dime of compensation. Meanwhile, you've become so associated with that company and with that brand that their competitors, everybody else in that category or sector, they're steering clear with you because they don't want to confuse their audiences. So in addition to losing out on money from the original company, now you're losing out on money from potential companies. And here's where it gets even more fun. Hope you brought a bucket. Let's say the company that you voiced for falls in some way out of favor. Say like, I don't know, maybe a formerly glorious microblogging platform that was bought by someone who had less than good intentions, And let's just say the whole company has a soiled reputation now. Now, your association with that brand has the potential to harm your own reputation. And so you say, well, I'll just ask them to remove my voice. I won't be associated with them anymore. Nay, nay, you've signed away your rights in perpetuity. You are married to them forever. All right, let's get back to this idea of soft exclusivity because it's kind of easy to miss until it bites you in the ass. The reason this is a thing, and it's not even a contractual thing, it's an association thing. When you sign your rights away to a brand in perpetuity and they're using your voice publicly, you become associated with that brand. And so what happens is, as we alluded to before, other advertisers that are competitors that are in the same category or sector, they don't want any parts of you because you're now associated with their competitor. That's what soft exclusivity is. Whether the original client had exclusivity for you in their contract or not is irrelevant because to their competition, you are persona non grata. Let's say you do an ad for an energy drink, right? Now you've become associated with, just pick one. Let's say it's Bang, right? You do an ad for Bang and you are doing public broadcast ads for them and you become associated with Bang Energy. Your voice is now so closely associated with Bang that let's say another energy drink comes along. Let's call it Zoom. Zoom wants no parts of you. And if you do audition for Zoom and you don't disclose your conflict and you book and do the ad for Zoom, Bang can then sue you for violating a non-compete or an exclusivity agreement. But again, even if Bang doesn't have legal grounds on which to stop you, now the new client may have legal grounds to sue you because you didn't disclose your conflicts. So that's why when agents reach out about a national campaign, they're going to ask you to disclose any conflicts you may have. And if those conflicts are in perpetuity, that's not going to work out well for you. Let's get back to the financial impact for a minute. When you sign away in perpetuity rights, you're essentially taking a bag of money, an upfront payment, rather than having your payments made to you over the course of years. If you're voicing a commercial that potentially can run months or years down the line, then you're missing out on the potential to renegotiate those renewals down the line. This is not about getting paid for your time to record the spot. This is about getting paid for your value as long as that spot is running. And without that, you're giving the client a license to print money using your voice, and you're not getting any further compensation except that initial, which in hindsight is a pittance. And this is super relevant as new technologies and the industry evolve. With the rise of digital advertising, especially digital broadcast advertising, spots have the potential to run even longer than they used to back when all we had was broadcast TV and radio. It's not just about national TV spots anymore. Ads can run for a hell of a long time on YouTube, on Hulu, over the top platforms, and even on social media. And every one of these platforms has the potential to reach millions of viewers and have a huge impact. All while your voice continues to work for the client for relatively free. All right, now that we've almost beat that horse to death, you might be saying to yourself, oh, holy crap, is in perpetuity ever okay? And the answer is yes, but it's all about context. When it comes to non-broadcast projects, things like corporate videos, explainers, e-learning, medical narration, IVR and telephony work. Things are different for non-broadcast work. These projects are not typically produced for mass consumption, and they're certainly not driving long-term profits for the companies that are producing them. Instead, these are oftentimes one-off projects for a very specific purpose with a very limited audience. For example, an internal explainer video for a corporation may simply live on, let's say, their company intranet, and that's not going to have the same public consumption. It's not going to drive the same long-term profits that a public-facing TV or digital broadcast ad would. So in perpetuity, in that case, makes a lot of sense because you're not going to be missing out on profits that you're driving for the company. Their competitors aren't going to care because you won't be associated as closely with that brand because it's not being consumed in a mass consumption sort of way. So there's no conflicts and no real repercussions for your income. And a lot of times these non-broadcast, more corporate sorts of projects have a more limited shelf life. E-learning or corporate training may have a shelf life of, let's say, 3 to 5 years, in which case it's going to need to be re-updated or the platform will have changed. Medical narrations might be used, for example, for a specific device that's only used for a few years. So while, yeah, your voice is tied to that project in theory indefinitely, the likelihood that that project's still going to be running even a decade from now is pretty slim. The same thing for non-paid placement social media. Let's say you're doing an explainer, it's 60 seconds long. It's going to run on the client's organic social media feeds, meaning only in their feeds, and they're not paying to run that recording as an ad. Then it's fine to do that in perpetuity, because the reality is they're only going to run it a few times. Now, that said, even when in perpetuity is acceptable, it's still all about context, and you still have to read the fine print. For example, you'll want to look for any language that allows the client to repurpose that recording for things that are broadcast, or usages that even expand the audience significantly. Let's say you did an internal training course, and months down the line, the client decides they want to use that in a public-facing course. Well, that's a much bigger audience, and you should contractually, if you're diligent, you should have the ability to then renegotiate or negotiate that in the original contract. The big lesson, the big takeaway here is to make sure that you read the fine print and that you make sure that any and all usage is clearly detailed and as specific as possible in the contract and or the scope of work. So how do you protect yourself when you're negotiating gigs? Well, it comes down to understanding what your rights are and negotiating smartly. When a client asks for in perpetuity rights for broadcast spots, do not accept them, and it is okay to push back. In fact, it's essential. Now, the reality is that no client needs the rights to a recording really in perpetuity. They're not going to run it forever. Ask them why they're asking for in perpetuity and whether a limited term, say a year, 2 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years, makes more sense. And if you come at this from a place of service and trying to help them, then many clients will understand that you're not trying to put one over on them. You are actually trying to help them and to control their costs, while at the same time protecting your own future earning potential. For example, they ask for in perpetuity. You say, okay, how about 5 years with an option to renew at, let's say, 10 or 15% at the end of that 5-year term. That way, the client still gets long-term use that they're looking for, and you still get the chance to renegotiate if that campaign is wildly successful. They know that they've got a set contract for the next 5 years and what the associated costs are, and you know you're going to get compensated fairly as long as that ad continues to generate revenue. And I'm going to say it one last time. Make sure you read the fine print for anything that has to do with in perpetuity, and always read the fine print specifically on usage and term, and make sure you fully understand the implications. And if you don't, engage an attorney. Understand, are you going to be able to work for competing brands? Is the exclusivity, is it tied to a certain geography or region or term? Or is it completely global? Get the details up front, get them nailed down, save you a lot of headaches in the future. Now, there's one last aspect of in perpetuity that I hadn't even considered until 2 days ago, and that is, what if you are considering having an AI model made of your voice? 2 days ago, I'm scrolling through Instagram, and my friend and Nava Vice President Karin Gilfrey addressed that very topic. She explains it much better than I could, and here it is.
Tech companies are trying to get actors and individuals to sign away the rights to themselves, to their voice, image, name, and likeness in perpetuity. And you should not do that. Don't take that deal, no matter how much they're offering you, for a couple of reasons. One, you don't want a tech company to own you in perpetuity to do with whatever they want forever. You want to have a licensable term. Second, the No Fakes Act is a bill that would give every individual person intellectual property rights to their voice, image, name, and likeness. And the license term that is included in this bill is no more than 10 years. That means that the tech companies would not be able to use your voice for more than 10 years without asking your permission again and hopefully paying you again. So they're trying to get in perpetuity now, in part maybe because they know that this legislation is coming, and anything after the bill is passed will only be allowed to be 10 years, but it won't be retroactive. So if you sign away the rights to your voice, image, name, and likeness now, you are locked in. So don't do it. Hold strong. Stand together. We can do it.
As with broadcast, when it comes to having an AI model made of your voice, you want a finite, licensable term. 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Do not agree to in perpetuity. That's a lot. I get it. But a lot of ground to cover, but I think you have a better understanding now. In perpetuity is a trade-off, and it is never one that benefits the voice actor. Yeah, it's a little bit of money up front, but what you're giving up down the road is huge, and that's why companies want to have rights in perpetuity, because it benefits them, not you. Whether you're missing out on actual money from that client, whether you're missing out on potential money from other clients in that sector, whether you're losing control over how your voice is being used, or whether or not you're associated with a brand with a bad reputation, when you're tied to a company and a brand in perpetuity, it means forever. Yeah, I get it. It's tempting, especially if you're in tight financial straits, to take a little bit of money now. But what you're giving up later could literally cost you 5, 6, or 7 figures down the road. It's not just about getting paid today. It's about making sure that your talent is being valued today and in the future. In perpetuity seems harmless now, but the harm that you do to your own career and that of the entire industry is irreparable. Now, get on over to vopro.pro and get my Move, Touch, Inspire newsletter that comes out for voice actors every single week. Get more information on the VO Pro community and the VO Freedom Master Plan. If you got value out of this video, if you think it'll be valuable to other voice actors, then please share it with them, whether it's on social media or you email it to them, strap it to a carrier pigeon and throw it off your balcony. I don't care what you do, but we can help other voice actors if you share this thing. And as always, thanks for the conversations that we're having in the VO community at large, here on YouTube, in the blog at vopro.pro, on Zoom calls whenever they happen, in workout groups. The more we talk, the more we exchange information, the more we ask questions, the better, stronger industry we're going to have for everybody. Go Ravens, and we will see you back here next week.